The year was 2247, and Earth had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Harmony Point, watching ships from dozens of alien species dock at the massive orbital station. The station floated above Earth like a small moon, serving as the primary meeting place between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Jake was a tall man in his early 40s, with gray beginning to show at his temples. He had commanded Harmony Point for 5 years, and he took pride in the peaceful exchanges that happened here every day. Artists from Earth shared their work with alien visitors. Scientists collaborated on research projects. Children from different worlds played together in the recreation areas. "Commander, we have an incoming transmission from Vexara Prime," Lieutenant Amy Sullivan said, approaching from the communications center. She was young, efficient, and had been Jake's second-in-command for 2 years. "Put it through to my office," Jake replied. The message was routine. The Galactic Council was planning a celebration of peace, marking another year without major conflicts. All member species were invited to send representatives. Jake made a note to forward the information to Earth's government. Meanwhile, on Vexara Prime, the Council's capital world, Ambassador Lisa Hayes sat in the Grand Chamber, where 73 different species gathered to discuss galactic matters. Lisa had represented humanity for nearly 20 years. She was known throughout the Council for her patient diplomacy and her constant advocacy for peaceful solutions. Today's session focused on a new applicant for Council membership. The Krell Dominion had requested to join. Lisa studied the species carefully as their ambassador presented their case. The Krell were large beings, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with thick armored skin and powerful builds. Their civilization had expanded rapidly through their region of space, conquering 12 different systems in the past century. The Krell Dominion wishes to embrace the path of cooperation, their ambassador, Warlord Xanthex, announced in a deep voice. "We recognize that strength can be used for more than conquest. We seek to learn from the Council's wisdom." Several Council members shifted uncomfortably. The Krell had a reputation as warriors. Their culture valued military might above all else. Many species doubted their sincerity. Lisa raised her hand to speak. "Every species deserves a chance to change and grow. Humanity once fought terrible wars among ourselves. We learned to choose peace. Perhaps the Krell can follow a similar path. I propose we grant them probationary membership." The Council debated for hours. Finally, they agreed to Lisa's proposal. The Krell would join as probationary members, with humanity serving as their primary cultural liaison. Lisa hoped this would give the Krell a chance to truly embrace peaceful coexistence. After the session ended, Lisa walked through the gardens surrounding the Council building. Another human, Director Ryan Palmer, was visiting from Earth. He headed the Department of Colonial Affairs, managing the relationship between Earth and its various colony worlds. "Do you think the Krell are sincere?" Ryan asked, falling into step beside her. "I want to believe they are," Lisa said. "But we will watch them carefully." "One. And, Lisser. And," Ryan nodded. He was a practical man who dealt with real problems every day. His department coordinated supply shipments, managed population movements, and handled administrative issues for 37 human colonies scattered across nearby star systems. "How are the colonies doing?" Lisa asked. "Peaceful and productive," Ryan replied. "New Terra just sent their latest agricultural reports. Megan Foster says they will exceed their grain production targets this year." New Terra was one of the oldest human colonies, established 30 years ago. Megan Foster ran the civilian administration there, managing a community of 50,000 people. The colony focused on farming, taking advantage of the planet's excellent soil and climate. Most colonists were families who wanted quiet lives far from Earth's crowded cities. Back on Harmony Point, Jake received a visitor. Captain Kyle Newman had just docked his cargo ship, the Horizon Runner. Kyle made regular runs between Earth and the outer colonies, carrying supplies and trade goods. "How was the trip?" Jake asked, as they shared coffee in the station's cafeteria. "Routine, mostly," Kyle said. though I noticed more Krell ships than usual near the neutral zones. They seem to be conducting surveys or something. They are new to the council, Jake said. Probably just curious about their neighbors. Maybe, Kyle said. But he looked uncertain. Across the galaxy, Warlord Xanthex returned to his flagship. His officers gathered in the command center, waiting for orders. Xanthex looked at the data his scouts had collected on human territories. The humans have no significant military presence, one officer reported. Their colonies are defended by small security forces only. We detected no warships, no major defensive installations, no military infrastructure. And the Council's response times? Xanthex asked. Slow, another officer replied. It would take at least 3 days for Council forces to reach human space in an emergency. Xanthex felt satisfaction growing inside him. The humans were perfect targets. They were the Council's most vocal peace advocates, always talking about diplomacy and cooperation. Their ambassador had even sponsored the Krell's membership. They would never expect an attack. More importantly, conquering human colonies would send a message to the entire Council. It would demonstrate Krell's strength and Council weakness. The other species would learn to fear the Krell dominion. They would understand that military power, not empty words about peace, determined who held real authority in the galaxy. Begin positioning our fleets, Xanthex ordered. We will strike 3 human colonies simultaneously. Choose targets with significant populations, but minimal defenses. I want overwhelming force that will crush any resistance instantly. When do we attack? An officer asked. 6 months passed since the Krell joined the Galactic Council. To most observers, they seemed to be adapting well to their new role. Warlord Xanthex attended every council session, asked thoughtful questions, and participated in trade discussions. He even invited council representatives to visit Krell worlds for cultural exchanges. Ambassador Lisa Hayes wanted to believe the integration was working. She met with Xanthex regularly, discussing everything from economic cooperation to educational programs. Yet, something felt wrong. She could not identify exactly what bothered her, but her instincts warned her to stay alert. During one council session, the members discussed mutual defense protocols. These were standard procedures, outlining how council species would help each other if attacked. Xanthex asked very specific questions about response times, communication systems, and coordination procedures. How quickly can council forces reach a member's territory in an emergency? It depends on the distance, another ambassador replied. Usually, between 2 to 5 days. And what if communications are disrupted? Xanthex continued. Each species maintains emergency beacons that cannot be jammed, Lisa explained. But in practice, such situations are rare. We have not faced a major military crisis in decades. Xanthex nodded, appearing satisfied. Lisa noticed he took detailed notes. She made a mental note to mention this to Earth's security advisors. Back on Earth, Director Ryan Palmer coordinated the daily operations of 37 human colonies. His office received reports from every settlement, tracking everything from crop yields to population growth to infrastructure maintenance. The colonies were thriving. People were happy. Everything seemed normal. New Terra remained one of the most successful colonies. Megan Foster sent regular updates about the settlement's progress. 50,000 people now called the planet home. They had built schools, hospitals, and cultural centers. The farms produced more food than the colony needed, allowing them to trade surplus with other settlements. We are thinking about expanding the Southern Agricultural District, Megan wrote in her latest report. The soil quality is excellent, and we have families willing to start new farms there. Ryan approved the expansion and arranged for the necessary equipment to be shipped. He enjoyed his work. Helping colonies grow and prosper felt meaningful. These were real communities full of real people building good lives. Captain Kyle Newman continued making his regular cargo runs. The Horizon Runner traveled the same routes every month. delivering supplies and picking up trade goods. Kyle knew these shipping lanes better than anyone. He could navigate them with his eyes closed. Lately, though, he kept noticing Krell ships in unusual locations. They appeared near human colonies, conducting what they claimed were routine surveys. They showed up in neutral zones, supposedly mapping asteroid fields. They always had reasonable explanations for their presence, but the pattern bothered Kyle. "I am probably being paranoid," he told Jake Morrison during a stopover at Harmony Point. "The Krell are new to this region. Of course they are going to explore. Still, keep documenting what you see," Jake advised. "Better to have information we do not need than to need information we do not have." On New Terra, Megan received a report from the colony's sensor technicians. They had detected unusual readings in the outer system. Near the edge of their monitoring range, the readings appeared and disappeared, making them difficult to track. "Probably equipment malfunction," the technician said. "These sensors are due for maintenance anyway." Megan agreed and scheduled the repairs. She had more important matters to handle, like coordinating the upcoming harvest festival and mediating a dispute between two farming families over water rights. These everyday problems occupied her attention. She never considered that the sensor readings might be real, or that they might indicate ships hiding in the darkness beyond normal detection range. Meanwhile, Warlord Xanthex reviewed the intelligence his scouts had gathered. The reports confirmed everything he needed to know. Human colonies were defended by small police forces suitable for handling civil disputes but useless against military attack. They had sensor networks that could be easily jammed. Their settlements were concentrated in easy-to-target locations. Most importantly, the humans genuinely trusted the Krell. They believed the talk about choosing peace and cooperation. They thought everyone in the council shared their values. Such naive thinking would cost them everything. "The fleets are in position," his chief military officer reported. "We have forces near 3 different human colonies: New Terra, Garden World, and Port Liberty. Each fleet is strong enough to overwhelm the targets completely." "What about council response?" Xanthex asked. "By the time they mobilize, we will have secured the colonies," the officer replied. "The humans will be hostages. The council will have to negotiate with us from a position of weakness." Xanthex felt satisfaction fill him. This plan was perfect. The attack would demonstrate Krell's strength and council impotence simultaneously. It would establish his species as the dominant military power in this region. Other council members would learn to respect Krell authority or face similar consequences. "We strike in 3 days, Xanthex announced. "Coordinate the timing, so all 3 attacks happen simultaneously. I will personally lead the assault on New Terra." Back on Vexra Prime, Lisa Hayes grew more concerned about Krell behavior. She started reviewing records of council sessions, paying close attention to Xanthex's questions. A pattern emerged. On port, he consistently asked about defensive capabilities, response times, communication systems, and emergency protocols. He showed unusual interest in human colonies specifically. She scheduled a secure communication with Jake Morrison. "I might be seeing threats where none exist," she told him. "But my instincts are screaming that something is wrong with the Krell." "What kind of wrong?" Jake asked. "I think they might be planning something aggressive. The questions they ask, the information they seek, it all points toward military intelligence gathering." Jake was quiet for a moment. "I will pass your concerns up the chain. What should we do in the meantime?" "Stay alert. Watch for unusual activity. And maybe quietly check our defensive protocols. Just in case." "Understood," Jake replied. After the conversation ended, Jake sat in his office thinking. Harmony Point appeared to be a simple, cultural exchange station. But appearances could be deceiving. He entered a code into his terminal, accessing systems that most people did not know existed. Status reports appeared on his screen, showing networks and capabilities that the galaxy had never seen. Everything was ready. Everything had always been ready. Humans hoped they would never need these capabilities. But hope was not a strategy. Preparation was. On New Terra, Megan finished planning the Harvest Festival. It would be the biggest celebration of the year. Families were already preparing special foods and decorations. Children practiced songs and dances. The whole community looked forward to the event. The attack came without warning. Krell warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above New Terra, their weapons already charging. 30 massive vessels appeared in orbit, their hulls bristling with missile launchers and energy cannons. Warlord Xanthex stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the peaceful colony below through his view screen. "Begin jamming all communications," he ordered. "Target the settlement's power infrastructure. I want them helpless but alive. We need hostages, not corpses." On the surface, alarms began screaming across New Terra. Megan Foster ran to the colony's emergency command center, her heart pounding. The displays showed multiple hostile contacts in orbit. This could not be happening. The colony had no enemies. They were farmers, not soldiers. "Get everyone to the shelters," she ordered. "Send the emergency beacon to Earth now. Communications are being jammed," a technician replied, his hands flying across the controls. "I cannot get a signal through." "Keep trying," Megan said. "There has to be a way." Above them, Krell ships opened fire. Energy beams struck power stations and communication towers. Explosions lit up the morning sky. The attacks were precise, calculated to disable without causing mass casualties. Xanthex wanted the humans frightened and helpless, ready to surrender. Similar attacks erupted simultaneously at Garden World and Port Liberty. 3 human colonies faced overwhelming Krell force. The coordination was perfect. The surprise was complete. Everything went according to Xanthex's plan. For exactly 4 minutes. On Earth, Director Ryan Palmer was reviewing agricultural reports when his terminal exploded with emergency alerts. 3 colonies under attack. Communications jammed. Enemy forces, identified as Krell. His blood ran cold. He immediately contacted Jake Morrison at Harmony Point. "We have a situation." "I know," Jake replied, his voice calm despite the crisis. "I am already seeing the alerts. Stand by." Jake's fingers moved across his command console, entering a code sequence he had hoped never to use. The code was simple, just 12 characters. But it represented decades of preparation and planning. Authorization, Morrison, 7 Alpha 9. Execute, Protocol, Omega. Across human space, everything changed in an instant. The research stations orbiting Earth suddenly revealed their true nature. Panels slid aside, exposing weapon systems that could tear through heavy armor. Communication satellites reconfigured themselves into tactical command nodes. Mining platforms near Jupiter and Saturn opened massive hangar doors. Out poured warships. They were like nothing the galaxy had seen before. Sleek, deadly, and clearly built for war. Hundreds of vessels emerged from hidden shipyards that had operated in plain sight for decades, disguised as civilian industrial facilities. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and massive battleships all powered up their engines and formed into combat formations. On Vexera Prime, the Galactic Council's monitoring systems detected the mobilization. Alarms rang through the council chamber. Ambassador Lisa Hayes stood calmly as other representatives rushed to their displays, staring in shock at what they were seeing. "Ambassador Hayes," one alien diplomat said, his voice shaking. "Your species has a military fleet. A large military fleet." "We had no idea. You never asked," Lisa replied simply. "And we saw no reason to advertise our defensive capabilities. We hoped never to need them. But this fleet, it rivals the combined forces of a dozen council species." "How long have you had these ships?" "We had of you had these ships. We have always had them," Lisa said. "We spent 50 years building relationships and trust. But we also spent 50 years preparing for those who might mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. In Earth's actual military command center, Deep beneath what everyone thought were civilian government buildings, Admiral Claire Watson took control. She was a gray-haired woman in her 60s who had commanded Earth's defense forces for 15 years. Her staff moved with practiced efficiency around her. "Status report," she ordered. "All 3 colonies are under attack," Commander Ben Harris replied. Krell forces total 90 warships across the 3 locations. Colony defenses are active, but outgunned. "Not for long," Admiral Watson said. "Deploy 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fleets. I want overwhelming force at each location. Rules of engagement are defensive protection, with prejudice. If they do not withdraw immediately, destroy them." "Yes, Admiral," Harris confirmed. Lieutenant Sophie Grant coordinated the fleet movements from her tactical station. "First Fleet will reach New Terra in 18 minutes. The Krell will not expect us." End quote. She was right. Warlord Xanthex stood on his command deck, preparing to broadcast his surrender demand to the colony below. His ships had disabled most of New Terra's infrastructure. The humans had nowhere to run, no way to fight back. Victory was assured. Then his sensors officer shouted a warning. "Multiple contacts emerging from faster than light, bearing directly toward us. 30, 40, 50 contacts and counting." "Impossible," Xanthex said. "The humans have no fleet. Our intelligence confirmed this." "Artelligence." "The contacts are human warships," the officer insisted. "Large warships. Battle configuration. Weapons hot." Xanthex stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Human vessels surrounded his fleet, matching his numbers exactly. They had appeared with impossible speed and precision. Their formations were perfect, professional, military. A communication channel opened. A human face appeared on his screen. "Captain Luke Anderson, commanding officer of the battleship Freedom's Shield. Krell warships. This is Captain Anderson of the Human Defense Fleet. You have attacked civilian colonies unprovoked. You have one chance to withdraw immediately and surrender. If you refuse, we will destroy every ship in your fleet. You have 30 seconds to decide." Xanthex felt rage overwhelm his shock. "This is a trick. Humans are peaceful. You have no stomach for real war. Your weapons will be as weak as your resolve." 20 seconds. Anderson replied calmly. "All ships, open fire," Xanthex ordered. "Destroy these imposters." Krell vessels unleashed their weapons. Missiles streaked toward human ships. Energy beams lanced through space. It was an impressive display of firepower that had conquered a dozen worlds. It accomplished nothing against the human fleet. Point defense systems intercepted every missile. Energy shields absorbed beam weapons with barely a flicker. Then the human ships returned fire, and the Krell learned the difference between conquerors and warriors who chose peace. Human railguns fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The solid slugs punched through Krell shields and armor like paper. Directed energy weapons using quantum focusing principles overloaded enemy systems, causing cascading failures throughout Krell ships. But what truly shocked Xanthex was the coordination. Every human ship moved as part of a single organism. They anticipated his commands before he gave them. They exploited weaknesses in his formations before he realized they existed. They fought with a precision and skill that spoke of centuries of military development. Within 10 minutes, half his fleet was disabled or destroyed. The human ships had taken no significant damage. Xanthex watched in horror as his carefully planned conquest fell apart. "Withdraw," he ordered. "All ships retreat." "Negative." Captain Anderson's voice came through his speakers. "You do not get to run away. Surrender now, or we finish this." Xanthex looked at his tactical display. More human ships were arriving. His fleet was surrounded, outgunned, and outmatched. Pride warred with survival instinct. Pride lost. "We surrender," he said quietly. At Garden World and Port Liberty, identical scenarios played out. Krell forces attacked, human fleets appeared. Brief battles ended in decisive human victories. Within 30 minutes of the first shot being fired, the entire Krell assault was defeated. On Earth, Admiral Watson reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. Casualties? The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with confused voices. Representatives from 73 species talked over each other, demanding explanations, expressing shock, and in some cases, fear. The monitoring screens showed replays of the battles, displaying human military capability that no one had suspected existed. Ambassador Lisa Hayes stood at the human podium, waiting patiently for order to be restored. The council speaker, an elderly being from the Centauri Federation, finally called for silence. Ambassador Hayes, the speaker said, the council requires an explanation. Your species has maintained a military force of significant size without informing this body. Some members feel this represents a breach of trust. Lisa looked around the chamber calmly. With respect, Speaker, humanity never hid anything. We simply never advertised our defensive capabilities. Every human knows about our military. Our children study military history in school. Our news media reports on fleet exercises. The information was always available to anyone who asked. But you advocated for peace. Another ambassador protested. You spoke against military buildup. You convinced us that cooperation was better than weapons. I still believe that, Lisa replied. Cooperation is better than weapons. Peace is better than war. But belief in peace does not require vulnerability. My species learned long ago that being unable to fight is very different from choosing not to fight. The chamber fell silent. Lisa continued, her voice steady and clear. Let me tell you about humanity's history. 300 years ago, we fought wars that killed millions. We developed weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We came very close to making Earth uninhabitable. Those wars taught us the true cost of violence. She pulled up images on the main display. Ruined cities from Earth's 20th century. Memorials to the dead. Historical footage of nuclear explosions. We learned from that horror. We chose peace. We built a unified world government. We eliminated poverty and hunger. We focused on art, science, and exploration. But we never forgot the lessons our ancestors paid for with their blood. Lisa changed the display to show human military vessels and installations. We knew that not every species in the universe would share our commitment to peace. We knew that choosing to be peaceful, while being unable to defend ourselves, would be naive and dangerous. So we maintained our military capability. We trained our personnel. We developed our technology, and we hoped we would never need it. Director Ryan Palmer appeared on screen from Earth, addressing the council directly. The human government allocated 15% of our resources to defense. That is less than we spent on education or healthcare, but enough to ensure our survival. We built our defenses quietly, not to deceive anyone, but because we saw no reason to make them the focus of our identity. He brought up more data. Every human colony has defensive platforms hidden within civilian infrastructure. Every cargo ship can be converted to military transport within hours. Every citizen receives basic security training as part of their education. This is not aggression. This is prudence. A Centauri ambassador spoke up. But Ambassador Hayes, you sponsored the Krell's membership. You advocated giving them a chance. How could you do that if you suspected they might attack? Because giving them a chance was the right thing to do, Lisa said simply. Every species deserves an opportunity to choose peace. We hoped the Krell would take that opportunity. We prepared in case they did not. Both actions were necessary. On Earth, Admiral Claire Watson held a press conference explaining human military doctrine to galactic media. Reporters from dozens of species crowded the room, their questions coming fast. Admiral, how long has humanity maintained this fleet? One reporter asked. We have had defensive forces since achieving world unity in 2089, Watson replied. The current fleet represents 160 years of continuous development and refinement. Why did you never inform the council? We did inform them. Our membership application included information about our defensive capabilities. But we did not emphasize it because we wanted our relationships based on cultural exchange and cooperation, not on military strength. We are not a warrior culture. We are a peaceful culture that maintains the ability to protect itself. Another reporter jumped in. Your fleet defeated the Krell in minutes. Are you now the most powerful military force in the galaxy? Watson considered the question carefully. I cannot compare our capabilities to every species in the galaxy. I can say that we have the ability to defend our territory and our people effectively. That is the goal of our military, nothing more. Will you share your weapons technology with Council species? That is a political decision, not a military one. However, I believe humanity would be willing to cooperate on defensive technology with species that share our values. Strength is more useful when it protects peace, not threatens it. Back at New Terra, Megan Foster watched these broadcasts with the rest of her community. People had so many questions. The fear from the attack was fading, replaced by confusion and curiosity. Did you know about the military fleet? One farmer asked her. I knew it existed, Megan admitted. Everyone knows. But I never thought we would need it. I never imagined warships would appear above our farms. I am glad they did, another colonist said. The Krell would have killed us or enslaved us. Our people saved our lives. Others nodded in agreement. The initial shock was giving way to a different emotion: pride. Humanity had protected its own. The peaceful farmers and artists and teachers had revealed themselves as the descendants of warriors who simply chose a better path. Captain Kyle Newman docked at Harmony Point, eager to talk with Jake Morrison. He found the commander in his office, reviewing damage reports from the colonies. You knew, Kyle said. All those times I mentioned seeing Krell ships, you knew something might happen. I suspected, Jake confirmed. Lisa's warnings made me alert. But I hoped it would not come to this. The galaxy thinks humans are different now, Kyle observed. They see us as dangerous. No, Jake corrected. They see us as complete. Before, they only saw half of humanity, the peaceful half. Now, they see the whole picture. We are still peaceful. We still want cooperation and understanding. But we are not victims waiting to be conquered. In the Krell detention facility, Warlord Xanthex sat in his cell, replaying the battle in his mind. His entire understanding of humanity had been wrong. He had seen peaceful people and assumed weakness. He had mistaken restraint for inability. The humans could have destroyed his fleet completely. They had the firepower. Instead, they disabled his ships and captured his crews. Even in victory, they showed mercy. That somehow made their strength more terrifying, not less. A human officer came to his cell. Commander Ben Harris, from Admiral Watson's staff. The Council will decide your fate, Harris said. You will face trial for attacking civilian colonies. Your species deceived us, Xanthex said bitterly. We are peaceful, Harris replied. We have been peaceful for over 150 years. We have not started a war, conquered a planet, or sought to expand through military force. What we did was prepare to defend ourselves if someone attacked us. You chose to be that someone. You have powerful weapons and hide them. That is deception. Harris shook his head. A locked door is not deception. It is prudence. You tested the door and found it locked. That is your fault, not ours. He turned to leave, then paused. The Krell philosophy says strength is everything. I think you are learning that you were only half right. Strength matters, but wisdom matters more. The strongest warrior is the one who wins without fighting. We tried to win that way. You forced us to fight, and you discovered that peaceful beings can still be very, very dangerous when pushed. Across the galaxy, military analysts from every Council species studied the human performance in battle. The tactical coordination impressed everyone. The weapons technology astounded many, but what truly caught their attention was the human approach to warfare itself. Human forces fought with minimum necessary force. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible. They protected civilians even in the middle of combat. They showed mercy to defeated enemies. This was not the behavior of conquerors or aggressive warriors. This was the military doctrine of a species that fought only when forced to, and sought to minimize harm even then. 3 months after the Krell attack, the Galactic Council held a formal hearing to determine the consequences. The chamber was filled to capacity. Every species wanted to witness the judgment that would define galactic politics for generations. Warlord Xanthex stood in the defendants area, his wrists bound, his proud bearing diminished by defeat and imprisonment. His officers stood beside him, equally subdued. The evidence against them was overwhelming. They had violated council law, attacked civilian colonies, and shattered the peace that had lasted for decades. The council speaker read the charges slowly and carefully. The Krell leadership planned and executed unprovoked military attacks against 3 human colonies. They deceived this council about their intentions. They endangered tens of thousands of civilian lives. How do you answer these charges? Xanthex remained silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I do not deny the charges. I believed humans were weak. I thought the council was weak. I was wrong about both. That is not an answer to the charges, the speaker said. It is the only answer that matters, Xanthex replied. We attacked because we thought we could win easily. We failed because we did not understand our enemy. The humans defeated us, not just with weapons, but with wisdom we did not possess. The council deliberated for hours before announcing their decision. The Krell Dominion would face severe penalties. They would withdraw from all recently conquered systems and return them to independence. They would pay reparations to the human colonies they attacked. Their military would be limited and monitored for the next 20 years. Most significantly, Krell officers who participated in planning or executing the attack would serve prison terms on a neutral council world. Warlord Xanthex himself received a 15-year sentence. We show you mercy, the speaker told Xanthex. Because the humans showed you mercy. They could have destroyed your fleet and executed your crews. They chose restraint. We follow their example. Use your time in prison to learn what they tried to teach you about the nature of true strength. After the sentencing, Ambassador Lisa Hayes addressed the council one final time on this matter. The Krell attack revealed uncomfortable truths for everyone, she said. They learned that peaceful species can be dangerous when threatened. We learned that our peaceful reputation made us targets for those who mistake kindness for weakness. And the council learned that peace requires both the desire for it and the strength to defend it. She paused, looking around the chamber. Humanity wants to share what we have learned. We propose the creation of a galactic defense initiative. This would be a joint program where council species share defensive technology and train together. Not to prepare for war, but to make war less likely. The proposal generated immediate debate. Some species worried about increased militarization. Others supported the idea of collective security. Eventually, a compromise emerged. The defense initiative would be voluntary, focused on defensive capabilities only, and paired with expanded diplomatic training programs. Earth agreed to lead the initial programs. Admiral Watson appointed Captain Luke Anderson to head the military training division. For diplomatic training, Lisa recommended a former colleague, Captain Max Turner, who had both military experience and diplomatic credentials. Max arrived at the new training facility on a neutral world between Earth and Centauri space. The first class of students included officers from 20 different species, all eager to learn the human approach to defense. Welcome, Max told them on the first day. You are here to learn how humanity balances peace and power. The first lesson is this. The goal of any military should be to never fight. Your weapons exist to prevent conflict, not cause it. A young Centauri officer raised her hand. How can weapons prevent conflict? By making conflict too costly for an aggressor, Max explained. When potential enemies know you can defend yourself effectively, they choose negotiation instead of attack. The Krell attacked because they thought we could not fight back. Over the following weeks, Max taught both combat tactics and negotiation techniques. Students learned to operate advanced weapon systems and to mediate disputes. They studied military history and diplomatic theory. The curriculum reflected humanity's core belief. The best warrior is one who wins without fighting, but who can fight decisively if forced. Meanwhile, on New Terra, life slowly returned to normal. The damaged infrastructure was repaired. The Harvest Festival, postponed during the attack, finally happened. Megan Foster watched as her community celebrated, knowing they now lived under the protection of defensive platforms that were no longer hidden. "Do you feel safer now?" one of the farmers asked her. "I feel more honest," Megan replied. "Before, we pretended danger did not exist. Now we acknowledge it and prepare for it while still living peaceful lives. That feels more real to me." Children played in the fields while defensive satellites orbited overhead. Farmers worked the soil, while trained security personnel maintained readiness protocols. The colony remained peaceful, but the peace was no longer based on ignorance or naivety. Captain Kyle Newman continued making his cargo runs, but now he saw things differently. Those civilian ships that passed him in shipping lanes, many contained military supplies disguised as regular cargo. Those mining stations near asteroid fields, some doubled as sensor platforms and weapons depots. The infrastructure had always been there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the day it might be needed. That day had come and gone. The preparations had proven worthwhile. Now everyone knew the truth, and Kyle found he preferred it this way. Honest strength felt better than hidden strength. On Vexara Prime, Lisa met with representatives from several council species who wanted to establish closer ties with humanity. The Krell attack had paradoxically increased Earth's diplomatic influence. Species that once saw humans as gentle philosophers now saw them as wise guardians who could teach important lessons. "Your species managed something remarkable," a Centauri elder told Lisa. "You maintained both moral integrity and military capability. Many civilizations struggle to balance these opposing forces. You seem to have found the balance." "Lime. It is not easy," Lisa admitted. "Some humans worry that having strong weapons will make us more likely to use them. Others worry that talking about peace makes us seem weak. We have constant debates about where to draw the lines. But those debates are healthy. The day we stop questioning ourselves is the day we lose our way." A year after the attack, Earth hosted a memorial ceremony for the brief conflict. Though no humans died in the fighting, the memorial honored the peace that was broken and the lessons learned from defending it. Admiral Watson spoke at the ceremony. "We hoped we would never need to use our weapons. We prepared them anyway, because hope is not a strategy. We were right to prepare, but we were also right to hope. Both things can be true at the same time." Director Ryan Palmer added his thoughts. "The colonies are stronger now, not just because of better defenses, but because we stopped pretending the universe was safe. Acknowledging danger does not mean living in fear. It means living with eyes open and defenses ready." Jake Morrison, still commanding Harmony Point, watched the ceremony from his station. The orbital platform remained a cultural exchange hub, but now, alien visitors saw the defensive capabilities integrated into its structure. Weapons emplacements sat beside art galleries. Tactical command centers operated next to concert halls. The combination no longer seemed contradictory. In the Krell Dominion, significant changes were occurring. The failed attack and subsequent defeat had shaken their entire culture. Many Krell, especially younger ones, began questioning whether military might really represented the highest value. A movement emerged calling for reform. These reformers studied human history, learning how Earth had transformed from a world of warriors to a world of peace without abandoning the ability to fight. They argued that the Krell could follow a similar path. "We confused strength with cruelty," one reformer wrote in a document that spread through Krell worlds. "We thought power meant taking what we wanted. The humans taught us that real power means having the ability to take but choosing not to. That is a strength we never understood. The reform movement faced resistance from traditional Krell leaders. But it grew steadily. The humans had defeated them, not just militarily, but philosophically. The ideas humanity represented proved more powerful than their weapons. 5 years after the attack, the Galactic Defense Initiative graduated its 100th class of officers. These trained personnel returned to their homeworlds, spreading the human doctrine of defensive readiness paired with diplomatic engagement. The galaxy was becoming simultaneously more peaceful and better defended. Ambassador Lisa Hayes, now in her 70s, prepared to retire. She had served Earth and the Council for 27 years. On her last day, representatives from every Council species came to honor her. "You changed the galaxy," the Council speaker told her. "You showed us that peace and strength are not opposites, but partners. That lesson will endure long after all of us are gone." Lisa smiled. "I did not change anything. I just helped reveal what was always true about humanity. We are not angels who never fight. We are not devils who always fight. We are people who choose carefully when to fight and when to talk. That is the most any species can be." Her replacement, a younger diplomat named Julia Price, took up the role with Lisa's guidance. The transition was smooth. Earth's message remained consistent. Pursue peace actively, maintain strength quietly, and never forget that the two depend on each other. On New Terra, Megan Foster celebrated her 60th birthday, surrounded by grandchildren. The colony had grown to 80,000 people. New settlements spread across the planet. Defensive platforms orbited openly above, no longer hidden. Everyone knew they were there, and everyone felt safer for it. "Tell us about the attack," one grandchild asked. "Tell us about the day the warships came." Megan told the story she had told many times before. About the Krell ships appearing without warning. About the fear and confusion. About the moment human warships arrived and everything changed. About learning that her species had prepared for danger even while hoping it would never come. "Were you angry that nobody told you about the military fleet?" the child asked. "At first," Megan admitted. "But then I understood. The people who built those ships and trained those crews, they wanted us to live peaceful lives without fear. They carried the burden of readiness so we could enjoy the gift of peace. That was their service to us." She looked up at the sky where defensive satellites glinted in the sunlight. "Now we share that burden. We all know about the defenses. We all help maintain them, and we all choose peace every day, knowing we could choose war if we had to. That choice means something because we have the option." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Peaceful species were not automatically weak. Diplomatic species were not automatically vulnerable. Humanity had taught everyone that you could advocate for peace while being entirely capable of war, and that this combination represented wisdom, not hypocrisy. And so the galaxy entered a new era. An era where peace rested on the foundation of strength, where diplomatic efforts were backed by defensive readiness, where kindness was not confused with weakness, and where patience was not mistaken for passivity. Humanity remained peaceful. They remained committed to art, science, exploration, and cooperation. They continued building relationships and helping others grow. But the galaxy would never again make the mistake the Krell made. They would never again assume that peaceful humans were defenseless humans, because humanity had proven the truth they had always known. The most dangerous beings in the universe are not those who can only fight, but those who can fight and choose not to, until the moment comes when choice becomes necessity. Then they fight with absolute commitment, secure victory decisively, and return immediately to seeking peace. That was humanity. That would always be humanity. And the galaxy was better for learning this truth. Several council species requested military exchanges with humanity. They wanted to learn human tactics and potentially acquire human defensive technology. Earth's government agreed, but with conditions. "We will share our knowledge," Lisa told the council. "But we want these exchanges to include diplomatic training as well as military training. Officers who learn to fight should also learn how to avoid fighting. Weapons training should be paired with conflict resolution education. The council agreed. Within weeks, the first exchange programs began. Human instructors traveled to alien worlds, teaching both combat techniques and negotiation strategies. Alien officers came to Earth, learning how humanity balanced military readiness with peaceful intentions. The galaxy was changing. The Krell attack and humanity's response had shattered comfortable assumptions about peace and power. Species that had let their defenses weaken for generations began rebuilding their militaries. But they did so, following the human model. Strength, in service of peace, not conquest. And humanity continued as before. Exploring, creating, building relationships, and helping others. The only difference was that now everyone knew the complete truth about who humans were. They were still peaceful. They still chose diplomacy first. They still believed in cooperation and understanding, but they would never be victims again. Minimal on our side, Harris reported. 3 ships took minor damage. No personnel losses. The Krell lost 42 ships destroyed, 48 captured. Their ground forces never even deployed. Good, Watson said. Send recovery teams to help the colonies. And get me a communication line to Ambassador Hayes. She will need to explain things to the Council. 1. Back on New Terra, Megan Foster emerged from the shelter to find Krell ships floating dead in orbit, surrounded by human warships she had never known existed. Relief flooded through her, followed by confusion. Where had these ships come from? How long had humanity maintained this fleet? Why had no one told the colonies? She would learn the answers soon enough. For now, she just felt grateful to be alive, and proud that humanity had protected its people when it mattered most. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The festival was scheduled for 5 days from now. Megan smiled, imagining how beautiful it would be. She had no way of knowing that in 3 days, Krell warships would emerge above her planet, and everything would change. Across human space, daily life continued normally. People worked, studied, loved, and lived without fear. They trusted in the peace that had lasted for 50 years. They believed the galaxy was a safe place where cooperation and understanding prevailed. They were about to learn a hard truth. Peace only lasted as long as everyone chose to maintain it. And the Krell had made a different choice. In orbit around a Krell military base, dozens of warships completed their final preparations. Weapons were charged. Targeting systems were calibrated. Troops were briefed. Everything was ready for the surprise attack that would shatter the peace and shock the galaxy. The countdown had begun. In 3 days, the Krell would strike, expecting easy victory over defenseless humans. They would discover they had made a terrible miscalculation. Soon, Xanthex said. First, we establish our position in the Council. We learn their procedures and protocols. We identify weaknesses in their defensive agreements. Then we strike hard and fast, before anyone can respond. His officers saluted and left to carry out their orders. Xanthex stayed on the command deck, studying the star charts. The humans called their species peaceful. They talked endlessly about cooperation and understanding. They had spent 50 years building cultural relationships instead of military strength. Such foolishness would cost them dearly. The Krell understood the truth that soft species like humans refused to accept. The universe belonged to the strong. Peace was a pleasant fiction maintained by those too weak to fight. Real power came from weapons and the willingness to use them. The humans had made themselves vulnerable through their naive belief in diplomacy. They would learn a harsh lesson about the nature of galactic politics, and the Krell would establish themselves as the true power in this region of space. On New Terra, Megan Foster walked through the fields surrounding the main settlement. The grain swayed in the gentle breeze. Children played in the distance. Everything was peaceful and calm. She smiled, thinking about how fortunate they were to live in such a safe, stable time. She had no idea that warships were already moving into position in the darkness between stars, preparing to shatter that peace forever.